Hi, in this video we're going to look at exercise 5.69. Here we're subtracting two fractions that have different denominators. So our very first step is that we need to find a common denominator for 45 and 35. Because these are rather large numbers, I would recommend using prime factorization to find the common denominator. So we'll break down 45. 45 is 9 times 5. 5 is prime, and 9 breaks down to 3 times 3. So 45 equals 3 squared times 5. We'll do the same for 35. 35 is 7 times 5, and those are both prime. So 35 equals 5 times 7. So our least common multiple is going to be 3 squared times 5 times 7. So we only include 3 squared because that's the total number of 3's that we have in any one prime factorization. We include 1 5 because 45 has 1 5 and 35 has 1 5. So the largest amount of 5's that any single factorization has is 1 5, and we only have a total of 1 7, so we include 1 7 in our least common multiple. So when we multiply those all together, 3 squared is 9 times 5 times 7, we get 315. The other way to go about doing this would be to list out multiples of 45 and list out multiples of 35 until we get all the way up to 315. So now that we have our least common denominator, 315, we have to find equivalent fractions with that new denominator. So we have to say, okay, going from 45ths to 315ths, what are we multiplying by? Well, in this case, 45 times 7 is what gives us 315. So we're actually multiplying by 7 over 7 to get our equivalent fraction, and 22 times 7 is 154. Then going from 35ths to 315ths, we're multiplying by 9. So we're multiplying by 9 over 9 to get our equivalent fraction, and 16 times 9 is 144. So at this point, we have a common denominator, and we have our equivalent fractions, so now we can subtract. 154 minus 144 leaves 10 over 315. And then our last step is always to reduce or simplify if possible. And in this case, both 10 and 315 are divisible by 5, so we can reduce it that way. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 315 divided by 5 is 63. So that's how we get our answer for this problem. It's a little bit complicated because we have such a large common denominator. So it does take us a little bit longer to figure out what that common denominator is, and then we end up with some large numbers when we find our equivalent fraction. So it's a little bit more complicated than some of the other ones. But we're essentially following the same steps.